Hi everyone! Welcome to my video blog. We are going to talk a little bit more about the chapters we just read in our online women's study, Alone in Marriage. This week we did the chapters Imperfection and Waiting, and I really felt I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the Imperfection chapter. I know personally that I have asked myself this question multiple times. God, why do you even want to use me? How can you use me? I am so messed up. And if I'm asking myself that question, I am sure I'm not the only person out there asking the exact same question. And that's really what I want to talk about is how can God use us in our imperfections? Why does He want to use us in our imperfections? You know, a few years back, I was diagnosed with a disorder called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and that is a disorder that when a woman has PMS, which we all know that stinks and no one really likes it. Well, mine is like PMS on steroids. It is so bad. Just magnify everything to the extreme degree. All the emotions and the moodiness and the irritability and how you feel about yourself, it just wants to take over your body. And before I was diagnosed with that, I swear I used to think I was going out of my mind. And so many times I would lose it. I would lose control. I would lose control of my mouth. And I would just think to myself, if anybody could see behind the doors of this house, they would think, why would God want to use her? So if other people would think that, then of course my question is, why would God want to use me? And the fact of the matter is that God does want to use us. He wants to use us in our mess. He wants to use us in our imperfection. Why is that? Because when we are weak and when we can't do it anymore, we cry out to God and He says, I'm going to take what the enemy wants to exploit in your weakness, the things that he wants to make you feel the worst about and make you feel the smallest with. I want to take those weaknesses and I want to make them your greatest victory. And that is really where I started overcoming that whole mentality of, God, why would you want to use me? How could you use me? I mean, I'm just a terrible person. When the reality of it is that the Apostle Paul said, if I'm going to boast about anything, I'm going to boast about my weakness, because God's power is made perfect in my weakness. And so I started thinking about that. Okay, so what my greatest weakness is my mouth, but it's also my greatest gift. See, what the enemy wants to use to tear people down with and make them feel small and make them feel bad about themselves, God wants to use to encourage people and make them feel strong and make them feel good about themselves. And so apart from God, I can't do it. Apart from God, I'm probably mean with my mouth all the time, and I don't do really well with those decisions when I'm thinking about when I'm angry and how I want to hurt somebody with my words. But when I am in the presence of God and when I remain faithful to His Word and faithful in worship and faithful in the things of God, He is faithful to take my weakest moments, those parts of me where I could hurt somebody with my words, and He says, I'm going to use your weakness and I am going to use it against the enemy, and I'm going to use it as your greatest strength. And so then I'm able to use my mouth or my words to build people up and to make them feel great. And so I want to encourage you, whatever you're going through that you find is your biggest imperfection or your greatest weakness, I want to encourage you that the Lord doesn't see it as your greatest weakness. He sees it as your greatest victory. So stay in His presence and stay in His strength and stay in His power. And those things that the enemy tries to trip you up on every time, it's going to become your greatest weapon and your greatest victory against him. You have a great day. Bye-bye.